Well, there's lots and lots of things to talk about once we get involved here and start a long weekend. But we're going to put everything aside with one big piece of news, something we've been chasing now for 35 games. Yes, it just happens to be a nice little landmark. It's the halfway point of the initial stage of the tournament before we get to the playoffs. And guess what? A team has won a toss and decided to bat first. Let's just tell you what games are coming up today. The first one in the afternoon is Gujarat taking on Kolkata. This is from the D.Y. Patil Stadium in Navi Mumbai. And then the action shifts back to Marine Drive at the Brabant Stadium with a huge clash between Bangalore and Hyderabad. That is match number 36. But even before we get to that, let's talk about match number 35 because the toss has happened. Let's go straight and meet our Cricbuzz live panel. Joy Bhattacharjya, Shaun Pollock. We were almost going to start a sweepstakes, Shaun, but before we did that, Hardik Pandya spoiled it all for us and he's decided to bat first.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, to think there's been 35 games and to not bat first. I mean, that's like in many ways used to be the old stock standard, didn't it? Get runs on the board and then see where you go from it. So, yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, these RPLs keep throwing up different equations at us and scenarios.com. But 35 games to be the first team to bat first is remarkable. Let's hope it works out for him so that other teams might say, okay, well, let's follow suit.
Well, Joy, Kolkata will be the one team, if anything, who will not be unhappy about it. There could be a few others. Maybe a Bangalore wouldn't mind batting first. Rajasthan definitely don't mind batting first. But Kolkata seem to have chasing in their DNA.
Absolutely. I think they have the kind of batting with suits chasing. They also reckon that with Saudi back, with Umesh, getting wickets in the first few matches, at least up front, they'll do that. But also, very importantly, if you had a chance of batting first, the odds were it would have been an afternoon game because then you don't have to worry about dew. You're not thinking about dew at all. You're saying, look, whatever the surface is, it's going to play the same. The second part, first part is the second. And I think also there's one reason I feel Gujarat's bowling is their strength. They are the kind of team, they are very much like a Sunrisers, Hyderabad kind of team in years gone by, where they depend on their bowling to bring you back. I think that's what they're doing. Lockie Ferguson, Mohammad Shami, Rashid Khan, they think Hardik Pandya bowling well. They think their bowling can do it, and therefore batting is not their strongest suit. They're trying to put they're trying to say we'd rather chase, we'd rather bowl towards the end. But good, finally, good to see it happen.
Yeah, I think when we were having an informal discussion, they would always have been favourites because early on in the tournament, the one guy in his familiar baritone said, I wouldn't mind batting first anytime. And finally, it's come true. He's had to make the decision and he's made it. Yeah, I'm talking about Hardik Pandya. Never mind, it was a terrible imitation, but it was Hardik Pandya who had said that. Maybe it was game number 2 or 3 early on in the piece. But changes, Shaun, we obviously have to have one change for sure, whether we like it or not. That's from the Gujarat side. And that is Hardik Pandya himself coming back into the team. Who does he come in for? We are assuming it would be Vijay Shankar. And that is the answer. Otherwise, the rest of the side looks pretty settled. And Yash Dayal showing promise, which means, Shaun, this bowling attack looks more than decent.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, anytime you've just got Rashid Khan in the mixer, I mean, it's got to be a good bowling attack if you've got 4 overs from him. Alzari Joseph, I've been impressed. Lockie Ferguson's had a good run of things in the RPL. Mohammad Shami, he's been fantastic. He's been becoming a real consistent performer in the ESL to contribute as well. So they got Tavatia who can bowl you a few overs. Pandya, we wait to see if he's be able to bowl today. But I think obviously the batting woes have been a little bit at the top of the order for them, and that's maybe why this is a good move. Just get them to go out there first, get the surface at its best, take the pressure of a run chase off their shoulders, and just say, come on, guys, just go see ball, play ball, and let's see where it takes us. They've got some good strength now with Pandya back in the middle order. David Miller's been in really good touch. It's good to see from a South African perspective. He's actually been playing all right for a period of time. He didn't get much of a hit out in the last RPL. But, I think his facts and figures this season have been fantastic. So, yeah, I think they're finding themselves in a slightly better space. But definitely the inclusion of Pandya, I think, is a big plus for them.
Yeah, certainly would be. Whether or not he is needed to bowl is going to be the big question. But if they bat first, Joy, somebody who will be critical for them is another X. We love these X battles, don't we? Shubman Gill, he knows the guys really well in purple. Now he's up against them. but he's had a bit of a hit or miss tournament. When he scored big. When he hasn't, someone in the power play has got him out nice and early.
Yeah, and Saudis, in the 2 matches Saudi did play, he was absolutely fantastic. He got 5 wickets, bowling rate of 7.99. Then he was excellent. He was, he had to be dropped because your big international star has come in. But I think they've done the right decision. If he's not getting, Pat Cummins' job is, he scored a 50 and won a match for them. But his job is not to win matches with the bat. His job is to win matches with the ball, and he's not done that. And I think they've taken a brave decision out there. What I do find interesting, though, is, in my opinion, though they are 5-1, I feel that the Gujarat top order batting is the weakest of all the teams. Riddhiman Shah, Shubman Gill, Hardik Pandya, Abhinav Manohar, David Miller, and Rahul Tewati are your top 6. They are not the team that will scare anyone with their batting. It doesn't look like a great batting team at all. I mean, they need somebody like a Shubman or Hardik, David Miller. These guys need to score runs for them, because Rashid at 7, the day he comes off, he'll come off. But Rashid is not, he's a hitter. He'll get it. Some days he's going to give you a quick 20, 30. He might have won the match for them the other day. But he's not a standard number 7 player. So I feel this is a very, very delicate batting attack. They've been getting everything right so far. So, every time we say, this batting order looks fragile, they prove us wrong. But, and they're just playing purely on spirit, if you know what I mean. But I think this is a fragile batting order, to be honest with you.
I'm not going to read into that spirit comment, Joy, for the moment. It's still middle of the afternoon. But let's look at Kolkata. It's obvious. Joy's given away a couple of little clues, which he tends not to do when he's setting a quiz question. But the first one he mentioned was Tim Southee. And for all of you, yes, that means Southee in, Cummins out. But they've also had to make a couple of other changes in terms of balance. They've got Sheldon Jackson out. Rinku Singh comes in. And then you need a wicketkeeper. So Sam Billings comes in, Sean. And obviously they've had to sacrifice Aaron Finch, who actually looked like he was starting to find a bit of form.
Yeah, it's a surprise for me. I thought, just with the makeup of their management and, how much time they'll spend picking the brain of Aaron Finch, that they've decided to leave him out. But obviously, as you mentioned, the balance needed to be tinkered with. Sam Billings, he's shown some good signs in years gone by at different times. Hasn't really launched as consistently in the RPL as you'd liked him. But I think it was time to get Tim Southee back in. Cummins, as we mentioned last night, he struggled a little with his length, and maybe his game plan on the Indian surfaces hasn't been effective. When he's bowling that brilliant line and length in Australia, he's highly compatible and really effective. But I think Southee, we saw in the initial parts of the tournament, I think in their first 3 or 4 games, he had a real impact. There we go. There's the facts for you. First 4 games, they picked up 9 wickets in that power play, and they look at the economy rate, went on to win 3 of those games. So you can understand as a management, when you look at that in your last 3 games, you only picked up 2 and you're going basically at 10s. We need to go back to the guy who's got some shape through the air up front. And I think that's what Southee brings to the equation, which is a complete difference to the sort of banging it back of length.
Yeah, it's a tough call to leave someone like Cummins out, but given that, as Sean said, you have a proven record this season. Southee was forced to play early on because Cummins wasn't eligible yet. He hadn't reached yet. So now that you're able to look at a few games and say, fine, Cummins, great innings the other day, but you're here for the bowling, let's get Southee in. The question for you, Joy, is, and it's not just my own little bugbear, do you still see Narayan getting one more shot at the top of the order, or will it depend on how much they're chasing?
I tend to agree with you. It is a matter of how much they're chasing. I think if they have runs in the board, but look, they had 2 openers. If you're saying Venkatesh Iyer has to go, Aaron Finch is gone in any case. So yes, there is a very, very good case for him coming on top of the order. Though I'd have to say that he'd probably be better off against other teams who don't have. Look, these guys have 3 raw pace bowlers. They have 3 really quick fast bowlers. Actually 4 if you look at it. Alzari Joseph is doing well. You have excellent. You have Shami. You have Lockie Ferguson. Hardik Pandya, yes, they are. So everybody can give you some. So I think this is a really, really interesting move. Look, the other problem is that one of the problems that Pat Cummins has had is Umesh has gone off the boil. You had 5 wickets in his first 3 matches, and then last 3 matches he's 0 for 44, 0 for 31, and 1 for 48. So what's happened is it's not just Pat Cummins is not giving you anything with the ball. Is that his partner has also cooled off. If you remember about 7-10 days back, about almost a week and a half back, Umesh was the purple cap holder. So somewhere he's gone a bit off the boil as well, and that is also would always impact the bowler on the other side, because bowlers do hunt in pairs. One guy gets wickets, run rate's going to go down. He's going to get more chances. So that's also happened, and that's something they'd be worrying about as well.
Yeah, I think it's such a valid point, Joy. I think what people don't understand is that at certain times as a bowler, it's easier to come on than at other times. And, as you say, with Cummins not really striking up front, and Saudi was the one who did, when he comes into the attack, they're under pressure, so they can't take him on. You can go at 6 and over. Whereas if the team's off to a flyer and then you're introduced, it's obviously a lot more difficult. So they'll be hoping that Saudi can get back to the form he had, but it'll also affect Umesh as well. He'll maybe come on at different times and feel more confident.
But of course, the couple of players we want to talk about, one of course is Rinku Singh. We'll park that for the moment. But Venkatesh Iyer again, in the last game, Joy, before the game, Baz McCullum sort of hinted that yes, we love what he's doing, what he brings to the table for us and for India. It's not necessarily that he'll open every single time. He sort of gave it away in that particular game. Narayan opened, got out first ball without facing a ball. But Venkatesh Iyer, I think, will really want to make an impression at this stage.
Yeah, look at the runs he scored last year. Last year, 10 matches he's opened 370 runs at an average of 41, striking at a strike rate comfortably above 130. He was doing the job for them. I mean, that was fantastic. And, his India record, of course, look at that India record, 733, average of 33, strike rate of 162. But where is he batting? He was batting at 6. Whereas in Kolkata, he's batting as opener. And as I said, this record actually looks much better only because the runs look much better only because he had a sensational season last year. If you put this year's season, he's barely got any runs this year.
Yeah, I think that's the problem that they'll need to address, Shaun himself. I mean, it's a different matter about the management or Shreyas Iyer or anyone. As a player himself, he'll see, okay, fine, I've had a great season. It's got me a reward of a national jersey. Now I need to sort of maybe reinvent myself.
Yeah, I think, they have the discussions. I don't think where he's going to bat for India would affect this at all. I think as an RPL franchise, you're looking to put your best team out, and your 11 players need to be doing the best job they can to help that team win matches. So I don't think for one moment that's going to influence it. I'm sure they would have had a discussion with McCullum, and McCullum would have said to him, oh, where do you fancy yourself with? Where do you think you're best? And then after they've got those thoughts, he has to fit in. But yeah, I don't see spots at the top of the Indian batting lineup, to be totally honest. I know a lot of the guys, the 3 guys or 4 guys who've been batting there, probably haven't had the best RPL so far, but there's an opportunity for them to find some form. But yeah, I think he's just got to concentrate on what role he's given in this team and make sure he does it to the best of his ability. And from those stats you show there, he hasn't done it as yet. There is a different mindset you have to apply if you're at the top of the order or coming in the middle order. And he needs to make that adjustment. He needs to show that he's versatile. If you show any selector that you're versatile, you tend to make squads because they like that. Guys who can only play in one position, especially if you're a fringe member, you don't often crack the nod. Whereas if you can go at the top and do a great job in the middle, that's when you get picked.
Well, I suspect it's going to be one of the topics of discussion for all our fans who like to pop into Cricbuzz Live. And not just pop in, they like to contribute. Hashtag Ask Cricbuzz Live. We love your questions. Keep them coming. Always topical, always relevant. What's today's question? Sanjay Wadhwa says, can Shreyas do for Kolkata what Williamson does for Hyderabad? Play out of position to make up for the lack of a natural opener in the squad. Now, that's an interesting one from Sanjay Joy, because we've thrown a lot of names in there. Of course, Sunil Narayan up and down. Venkatesh Iyer, Finch has come, Finch has gone. Is Shreyas Iyer even an option for you?
Look, he's an option for me. I don't have a problem with it. If Venkatesh Iyer is getting you runs at 102, why not Shreyas Iyer? And Shreyas Iyer will get you more runs. He's a classy batsman. He's got tons of runs. He can bat at 3. He can bat at 4. Anyone who can bat at 3 can open as well. He has that capacity to face the new ball. So what I'm saying is there's no question of that. My only problem is that the moment Kolkata starts this mid-season chopping and changing, it doesn't usually turn out well. They've had 3 changes out here, and it just somehow it shows that I mean, perhaps they're panicking just a little bit. They're starting to make changes, and okay, you made changes. Now, whatever you've given these players that you've now got, if you're taking in Rinku Singh, fantastic. Stick to him for 3-4 matches. I mean, whatever else Aaron Finch did, Aaron Finch give you explosive stuff up front. He was really explosive for you up front. But somewhere, I think what had happened was that they were just not confident enough about Sheldon Jackson's keeping, so they had to bring in Sam Billings, and that just spoiled it. So, for whatever reason it's happened, I think they're unsettling their side again. Given that, I think this is their best chance. Gujarat is a top of the table team, but they're probably not as strong as they've performed so far. You knock a top of the table team out with a good match, all the confidence could be restored. It could be, hunky-dory tomorrow.
Yeah, I think Joy's point is also valid. Didn't we even see a quote? I'm trying to think if it was David Miller who made the quote of where they feel like they've won 3 or 4 games that they could have been on the losing end of.
Yeah, they said 4 games you could have lost. Yeah.
Yeah, so Gujarat are a bit fragile, to be totally honest.
Yeah, Shaun's brought that up. I think we probably have that with us. Why don't we dig it out? Okay, we don't have it, but yes, it was a quote that said, and if we think back, Shaun, to the games, the Tewatia game, and then there was the fact that David Miller himself got them over the line. Both those games
Rashid
really
Khan.
shouldn't have been theirs, and Rashid Khan.
Yeah, I loved Rashid Khan. I love watching Rashid Khan. He's turned into one of my favorite cricketers. I mean, I love his bowling and what he brings, but his batting's thoroughly entertaining. It's a bit of an awkward areas performer, but and that's what you want in especially as a new franchise. You do want those kind of performances because it just keeps such a good vibe in the unit, doesn't it? And winning games from the jaws of defeat is exciting, and it gives you that extra self-belief. So they'll be happy about that, but I think they would want, particularly at this stage of the tournament, they want a few dominating performances. And where's it going to come from? As Joy mentions, I'm not too sure it does come from the batting department.
But back to Kolkata, if we have a look at the lineup, yes, we probably had a little lack of confidence in Sheldon Jackson's keeping. Then there was Sam Billings coming in. Saudi for Cummins was like-for-like replacement. But what had to then happen was, if you took Sheldon Jackson out and then you got Billings in for Finch, Rinku Singh comes in. Now, we know his role in the dressing room as the guy who's the real energy there. But on the field, Joy, what is it that Rinku Singh brings to the table?
Look, he's a fantastic batsman for Uttar Pradesh. Bats at 4, left-hander, hits the ball really hard. And he's the quintessential, Knight Riders Academy product. The Knight Riders have an academy which is, which runs almost through the year, 3 to 4 times a year. They have camps. And he's one of the guys who's a regular at those camps. They've really, really invested a lot in Rinku Singh for the last 3 years and then retained him not retained him, but bought him back at the auction as well. They think really highly of him. Uttar Pradesh, he's done very well for Uttar Pradesh whenever he's had the opportunity. The question is, can he translate that to the top level? I think as a cricketer, I have no doubts about it. It's just a question of where do you slot him? See, he's a natural number 4. So if he slots in at number 4, does Shreyas Iyer open? And, all sorts of, then you look at those combinations, say, what can be moved around there, or do you want to move anything around at all? So, yeah. But he is not a natural opener himself. He bats either at a 4 or a 5 or a 6 maximum. That's his sort of position in the game.
Well, it's a bit of a headache, Shaun. I was just about to say it's like playing a game of chess, and I took my words back as I started thinking them, because in chess everything has its designated position, and only when you start moving, then all the different permutations and combinations come up.
Yeah, I just think that's where it's so important from a team management perspective. What role are you going to play? Sometimes guys think, okay, well, we'll just throw you into this position, but you've got to spend a bit of time with them just to get them to understand that role. If you're a dasher and then they want to throw you at the top of the order. I mean, a prime example for us at Mumbai was Dwayne Smith. He was a guy who had some real power. He used to come in at number 6 and 7, but he kept getting caught just on the fence. It struck it brilliantly, but caught on the fence. So we went down the road of thinking, well, when is there an opportunity where there's no one on the fence? And that's in the first 6 overs. So he still played his same game plan, but it fitted better into the role that was required for him. And I think sometimes that's the problem you had. All these guys are capable of doing different roles, but in order to sort of nail them down and secure them in a position-wise going forward for the rest of the tournament, you do need to make them understand, well, this is when you need to push, this is where you need to absorb, this is how you need to play it. And I think sometimes that's lost a little bit in the shorter format.
Yeah, Dwayne Smith, I think what Shaun said was echoed by his franchises in the Caribbean, was echoed by the West Indies national team when they started using him in that role. But I think picking up from what Shaun said, Joy, giving somebody a role and having a role to play, and I think one person defines that, and I'll come back to Shaun, of course, but I'll start with you on David Miller. I mean, every time you think of David Miller in recent years, you're like, oh, he's still around, is he? And you think back to 2013, 14, or whenever it was, he got that 100. And now that he's sort of almost reminded everybody, listen, mate, I can play. It's important that he gets that role going forward till the end of the season.
No, I think, look, again, to be honest with you, this Gujarat team doesn't have that many good international batsmen. David Miller for them, and that's the one good thing. Somebody like a Miller is also really good when he's secure mentally. He knows that, unless he gets injured, this is the guy. He's going to play. Just look at the kind of runs he's getting. Consistency, 31 of 14, 94 of 51, 30 of 21, 20 of 15, 20 not out of 15. So he's really got out really cheaply only once, and that's against Hyderabad. I mean, otherwise, he's had an absolutely rocking time. And he's given them runs. I think what has happened is David Crowley is responding really well to a captain entrusting him, saying, you are my middle order international gun. You're my finisher. You're going to do it for me. And I think last year, if you remember, I think he was with Rajasthan and they used him sparingly. They'd play him sometimes, they wouldn't. And some players don't really respond well to that. There's some who are like ready that, okay, whenever I get the chance, I'll go in and do it. There are others who are sort of, oh, you know what, I'm really not a part of their plans, and they sort of tune off a bit. So I don't know. Shaun would have a better sense of, whether he's that kind of guy or not.
Yeah, I think what happened is, as you say, you had that brilliant few tournaments. To give him the captaincy, that was a completely wrong move. It was Kings 11, I think, who did that. And he is a guy who thrives on confidence, and he needs to be a secure member in the side. He did have a period of 2 years where he went missing in action and didn't live up to what he could possibly manage to achieve. He sat on the bench for probably 2 or 3 years at the RPL. He kept getting picked up but hardly playing, and every time he came into bat, he was looking over his shoulder, like Joy says. So the security of this batting lineup, that he's one of the main honchos. They need him to perform. I think that's the kind of role in the smaller teams that he would thrive on, and we've seen exactly that, case in point.
And wasn't a coincidence when we looked at those numbers, Joy, that the one time he had not only a low score but a strike rate under 100 was the one game that they lost. Every other time he's been contributing, strike rate in 3 figures. Of course, the last game was a match winner, but that one game, Hyderabad, 12 or 15, it just showed when Miller's doing it. It's obviously there is a correlation, and I think that'll be good for him and good for the franchise. On the other side is a guy who's been a magician for so long, but suddenly, Joy, and I'm talking Varun Chakravarti, he's taking the wand, he's putting it into the hat, and nothing's coming out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at his last few matches in his bowling. He's just somewhere, as I said, one of the great things that Varun Chakravarti did, and look at again, as you look at the economy rates, and it's 11, 15, 15. So, look, it's the start of the season wasn't bad at all. Suddenly, he's fallen off the radar, and that's an interesting thing. He's, again, very much a bellwether of the team's performance. Take a look at that. His 8.25 is the match they lost. That's all his highest economy rates, in that sense, the most he's gone for has been in situations where his team is lost. And I just think what happens is that the moment he doesn't get wickets or doesn't bottle up the middle order, Narayan also finds it difficult. And Narayan's doing an amazing job, but the moment they get a Shiva Mavi or somebody, this guy's not doing well, the middle, that Kolkata was very good at restricting people between 7 and 15. That's not happening now. And therefore, Narayan is still doing his job, but if the other guy doesn't do it, then you're getting those 180, 190 totals against their batting is under pressure there. And therefore,
one thing I would add to that is he was never, he was mystery, but he wasn't a prodigious turner of the ball, was he? The key for him in those times where he was brilliant was his consistency. So consistency, it landed it in the perfect spot, and a little bit this way, a little bit that way. Guys were trying to work out what's happening. I've just seen too many bad balls from him this season. I mean, rank bad deliveries where it doesn't matter who you are, you feel like you can put it away. In the years gone by, it wasn't the case. He was so accurate, and he gave you nothing that you almost felt like you always had to take a risk to take him on, and we haven't seen that from him. So hopefully he gets his confidence back and starts to be that consistent. I think that's the key. I'd be saying, listen, forget about the variations. You just hit that area consistently, like you did brilliantly in the years gone by.
Yeah, and as you said, Joy, it was about the strangling that happened with two hands for teams. Narayan, Chakravarti, suddenly those overs you were not getting runs. So it was about economy, and if wickets came, wickets came. But that one game when they decided to go after, I'm not sure who it was, who was the first one to really properly go after Varun Chakravarti, and suddenly you're thinking, oh my God, it's leaking that end. Let's pay respect to Narayan, but it wasn't good enough.
Yeah, because that's the problem. Kolkata has played 7-8 years. Narayan has been one of the great bowlers in the tournament, and they haven't won all the time. They have won usually more consistently when Narayan has had support. That's a simple fact of the matter. When Narayan has had support at the other end, they've always done well. And that's the thing. I mean, if you look at it, where does he start going bad? If you look at it, it's that match where it was Mumbai he got hit. Then Delhi Capitals really smashed him. It was Delhi Capitals, then the Sunrisers, and then the Royals. So Capitals, Sunrisers, Royals, that's where he really went. And I think that's the big problem. That, once one batsman is taking him on, then the rest are lining up and saying, we can do this. The second is perhaps they're spending a little more time. Perhaps by this time they've spent even more time with their analysts to try and read a bit more of the ball and what it's like. They perhaps would have done a bit more. The more you do it, the better you get at understanding the bowlers. So I think they've had a little more time to look at him as well.
Yeah, I mean, something we've said consistently right here on Cricbuzz Live about all the bowlers who have succeeded. Pretty much every one of them has had a partner at the other end. Even when you had the Yuzvendra Chahal picking up a fifer, look at Ashwin's figures in the same game. So there's always been a bit of hunting in pairs for both bowlers and batsmen as well. Well, Joy, now is the time for you not to give any hints like you did with Tim Southee. Just give us a question, say no more, and we'll see what we can do with it.
Okay, straight off the bat is what specifically connects Chris Gayle, Ravindra Jadeja, and Kapil Dev? And the only hint I'll give, which is a very indirect hint, is obviously the today's day is significant.
That's a big one. But anyway, I didn't say anything. All right, Shaun, start looking it up. All of you, if you haven't given the answer already, hashtag Cricbuzz Live, get your answers back into us. We look forward to that. We, of course, have our predictions with a quick reminder that Cricbuzz Plus is a place to go to if you like a little bit extra out of your cricketing menu. We've got so much to offer. The new episode of Retro Reels is out there. Maybe Joy will give us a little bit more as the day goes on in terms of what's coming up there. And of course, Match Party coming up on Sunday. For now, prediction time, gentlemen. We've finally had the day when a side has decided on their own to bat first. Will that mean they'll have to little extra pressure, Shaun, to live up to the fact that they've decided to do it?
No, it's immense. The pressure is unprecedented. It's never been like this in the tournament at any stage. In 35 games, we haven't experienced the pressure that they're going to experience today.
All right. As a result of that pressure, what's your number?
I'm going 177.
All right. 177. It's kind of a cusp type total. Looks very winning-ish. Joy, less, more?
151. I think.
Oh, that's a lot less.
I think this batting is vulnerable.
I agree with you there, but I'm going to give them 10 more runs. I'm going to go 161. 151, 161, 177. It's a wide spectrum of runs that we have. One more quick reminder. 2 games to come on this doubleheader Saturday. We've got Hyderabad taking on Bangalore at the Brabant Stadium. We will, of course, bring you all that in the evening. For now, it's Hardik Pandya who's won the toss and invited his own batsman to bat first. Yeah, I'm saying it again. His own batsman to bat first. You had to exaggerate it because it hasn't happened all tournament. That's all we have on Cricbuzz Live. We'll see you in the 10th over on Cricbuzz Combox. Until then, from Shaun, Joy, and myself, it's goodbye.